Badass Attitudes, licensed here, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Certifying badasses, one podcast at a time. Turn up your energy with Fruitful Friday. Here's Kelly Orchard.
All right, we're turning up the energy once again on this Fruitful Friday. Thank you for coming back, badass. And how does that feel? I know, it does not get old being called badass. Pretty soon, people are going to start calling you badass because they're going to know that you're listening to the podcast for successful badassery. It just happens. Yes, it does. All right, this is National Heart Month. And you know what? I'm staying on the theme of listening this week. And for the month of February, I've been giving away my book, Heart Lessons, and this is your last chance. I'm going to tell you about it because this is the end of the month. I'm giving it away for free, or you can purchase a physical copy and I'll even sign it for you. Links are in the show notes. Today we're talking about some apples based on love being a positive emotion, and then we'll talk about something to do for the weekend. I'm going to share another excerpt from my book, Heart Lessons. So let's begin, shall we? Like I said, staying with the theme of listening this week. You know, if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And you've got to love yourself enough to listen to your intuition. Listen to your gut. It's usually right. Our bodies react to stress in physical ways. It also reacts to your intuition. When something just isn't right in a relationship, our work environment, or our personal life, our bodies tell us. We just don't always listen to what our body already knows and prolong the agony. There is a way for you to make decisions that can help you grow in love for yourself. Believe it or not, the act of cleansing has a profound effect on us. So quit waffling on your decisions. Wash your hands. Believe it or not, washing your hands can help you stop questioning a decision. Cleansing appears to remove not just physical residues, but mental residues, such as the concern about whether one made the right choice. So take time to wash your hands of what's holding you back from making that decision right now. Love yourself enough to know that your intuition is telling you what matters. And then you can show love with undivided attention. Show your love to the person you are with by staying in the present moment. How many times have you been at the dinner table or sitting next to someone who doesn't appear to be fully present with you? I've been guilty of this on occasion, but have learned new tools to be in the moment and show undivided attention to the person I'm with. That's love. Put away your devices and be present. Remember this simple tip. Multitasking, whether with computers, cell phones, social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, paperwork, or email demands that we think ahead. People who are juggling all of these things can't help but think of what they need to do next. Sometimes you have too many thoughts and you can't keep up. Refocus your attention on what you're doing right now. Decide to take instant action. Read, answer, delete, and file, so you don't have to come back to those to-do things later. And sometimes to show undivided attention means unplugging. Just wait till this podcast is over. All right, and then learn that you can love as patient, okay? So love might mean that you need to be patient with yourself. Showing yourself some love will help you grow, especially when you're making changes in your life. In order to love ourselves more, it's important to set goals that are realistic. Growth begins with a decision to make positive changes, and that probably includes changing the way we think. Making the decision to change is just the beginning. When we actually make positive changes, it's a good idea to start slowly. For example, are you loving yourself by starting an exercise program, quitting a bad habit, or carving out a little more me time? If you plan to do too much all at once, you can sabotage your best intentions, and it's likely you'll give up too soon. 5 or 10 minutes a day is all it takes to get started. Keep to your schedule for 1 month, and it will become part of your normal routine. It usually takes about 28 days of daily practice to establish a habit. Love is patient, so be patient with yourself. So these have been some of my Apple a Day. You can get these daily by subscribing to Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day podcast on the same platform you're listening to the Badassery podcast. Can you imagine how I made that happen? I know I'm being facetious, but I would love for you to also subscribe to the Apple a Day because you can get that daily and it goes along with different themes, but I'm sharing some of these just on Fridays with you for Fruitful Friday because I really do want you to go out and be fruitful.
A growing attitude changes when it encounters courage. It becomes badass. Fruitful Fridays with Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day and Weekend Vibes.
All right, now a little bit more about my heart lessons. Remember, National Heart Month. I've got to give you some stuff about my heart. All right, and so I'm going to share with you a little bit about lessons in listening since I'm on this whole listening theme this week. Psalm 31:24 says, "Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart, all ye that hope in the Lord." Listen means to make a conscious effort to hear, to give heed, take advice, pay attention. And other words for listen are hear, hearken, and attention. Heart failure happened because I didn't listen to the cues my body was giving me. In hindsight, when I was asked, how could you not know that your heart was beating so fast like that? I would have to explain that I just wasn't really listening. I shrugged off symptoms of lightheadedness to maybe I didn't eat enough carbs today, or maybe I'm getting too close to that time of the month. I remember feeling faint a few times while exercising, but just wrote it off as a good workout. I wasn't listening. The arrhythmia was chronic, and according to my cardiologist, my heart must have been in AFib for at least 3 months in order to have the congestive heart failure symptoms like I had. How could I not know? Boy, was I listening now. Anytime my body reacted to what was happening with my heart, my senses were heightened. A journal entry on August 11th, 2006 says, "The passage has metaphorical and physical meaning to me now." And I'm talking about the psalm that I just read to you above. "Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart, all ye that hope in the Lord." I didn't know why I felt compelled to stop at the cemetery to see Buck's headstone. I cried when I saw his name. I sat on the grass, just above where the casket laid 6 feet under me, and said, "I almost joined you." And as if he spoke out, I read the inscription and realized I need to have courage and hope so God would strengthen my heart. I cried at the message again. Another day I wrote, "I just don't want this procedure. I just wish the nightmare would end. This whole experience has been awful. I'm still wanting to know what I'm supposed to learn from this. My heart is sad and sick in more ways than I can write. If I've ever felt my heart was broken before, it has a whole new meaning for me now." I was having a constant battle with myself on the couch. At the time, I didn't completely know that I was in the cycles of grief. I was just asking and asking what I was supposed to learn. It wasn't as much about feeling sorry for myself as, let me hurry up and learn what I'm supposed to learn so this can be over with. I began to wonder what I did wrong. I kept asking and praying, I'm a good girl, honest. I mean no harm to anyone. Was I hanging on too tight to a thread of who I think I should be or am? You've got to listen and let go. God has something else planned for you. On November 6th, I wrote this in my journal that I was watching a sermon by Charles Stanley on television, and I kept some notes. And the notes were this: just listen. Don't try to figure God out. Do not doubt the Lord's word. God makes surprise visits at very key times. What is a surprise visit? God shows up in his own way, for his own purpose in our life. Sometimes he'll speak, sometimes he's silent, but he's making sure you're aware of how much he loves you. He came to you for a specific reason. He has something to say, something he wants you to do. It could be just to make you aware. He speaks to your heart. He could just want to humble you, give you instruction and a purpose. Intrinsically, I knew this, but I was on a roller coaster ride. It wasn't going to be an easy ride. God wasn't getting my attention so easily. He was going to make sure that I was actually ready to listen. My heart crisis was the catalyst that set the dominoes to fall. It's not as though I was living a bad life. It wasn't as if I was miserable, abusive, being abused, failing miserably. But one thing was certain. I was still looking for my heart's desire, even though by this time I didn't even know what that was anymore. I searched high and low in the midst of the health crisis. I still looked for a career path that would not only pull me out of this financial sinkhole, but also put me on the track to being the broadcast executive I thought I had earned. But everybody that I spoke to in the radio industry was miserable and overworked and completely stressed out. I had to acknowledge that I'm just recovering from a serious health issue. I didn't need that stress. I couldn't be in that stress. When you realize that you've got a second chance to live your life, what would you do? Would you go crazy and do all sorts of stuff like skydiving, bungee jumping, sell everything, and become a nomad traveling the globe? Would you quit your job, leave your family, or would you do something to help others? It took me a long time to come to terms with the reality that my life was not mine, and no matter how hard I tried to understand the lesson I thought I was supposed to be learning, I had to quiet my soul, stop asking questions, stop trying so hard, and wait on the Lord to reveal to me what His purpose was. When God allows your life to be derailed, it may not be meant for you to get back on track. You might just need to build a whole new one. Look at the opportunity, be quiet, and listen. God loves to dance. Building a new life must be done with baby steps. It doesn't happen overnight. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's like the merengue. I was broken. I had to admit it to myself. God laid me out so I would listen and stop believing that I had it all under control. There was no getting my life back on track. I had to build an entirely new one. But listening got me off the sidelines and into the game. I listened to my heart. Maybe for the first time since my brother died, I found hope and direction with a connection I felt with my brother at the site of his grave. It may sound ominous, but anyone who's ever been on a journey of the death of a loved one, lived through the grief of that kind of loss, understands how much of an impact it will make on your emotions when you feel that kind of powerful connection. And since I wrote this book, another one of my brothers has died. See, now this brother died in 1983. My other brother, my oldest brother, Brad, who was my voice coach, my cheerleader, the one who helped me with my radio personality voice, he died in 2015. So now I've got 2 brothers that I grieve. And so this is even doubly profound for me now. If it's something that you want to share, I didn't really share it much, the experience I had at my brother's headstone shortly after suffering heart failure. When I called my friend to share with her what I had felt, her response was, "Well, that's great, Kelly, if you believe in that sort of thing." I felt so disconnected from her that I never shared again what I was going through. So it's no wonder that the friendship didn't stand the test of the crisis. Tuning in and listening to your heart is essential for life. Let's briefly examine the physical function of the heart, shall we? We've already addressed the metaphorical definition of the heart in the introduction of the book. So here we go again. According to the International Version of the Bible, the definition of the heart is the center of one's being, including mind, will, and emotions. Further study reveals from Psalm 4:7 that in biblical language, the heart is the center of the human spirit, from which springs emotions, thought, motivations, courage, and action. The heart is the wellspring of life. Webster defines the heart after the physical and biological definitions as the human heart considered as the center of source of emotions, personality attributes, specifically inmost thought and feeling, consciousness or conscience, to know one's heart. So when you understand that the physical heart and the emotional heart basically have the same job, it's really time to listen. When the heart is divided into 4 chambers, the 2 upper chambers are called the atria, where the blood is received and collected. The 2 lower chambers are the ventricles, where blood is pumped out of your heart and circulates your entire body, including your lungs and brain. The heart is the engine that runs the ship, so it's critical to take good care of it. If you have a car or a boat, would you neglect the engine? How's your heart doing? Physically, if one chamber is blocked and not operating properly, it affects the entire system. That's what happened to me. I had an electrical malfunction. Somewhere in the top chambers of my heart, something went haywire. Neither my cardiologist nor my electrophysiologist were able to pinpoint the cause. All they could do was treat the condition. I was ignoring symptoms and wasn't listening to what my body was telling me. It's probable that I wasn't listening to my emotional heart either, and just kept pressing on in my life as if following my heart wasn't as important as my obligations. My heart crisis has two meanings for me and multiple lessons, and I liken it to being laid out as a wake-up call. It doesn't happen overnight, though. Making a significant change takes time. Listen to your body. What physical sensations do you feel? It's time for you to become mindful of your surroundings. Notice how you breathe when you are feeling stress, anxiety, anger, happiness, excitement, joy. Listen to how your body responds to what you put in it. Different foods, coffee, alcohol, cigarettes, drugs. How does your body feel? And then listen to how your body reacts to exercise, sitting for long periods of time, resting, or working. Get the picture? Listen to your body and then listen to your heart. How does it beat? I remember my cardiologist asking me what I did when my heart jumped into long periods of arrhythmia. Recalling that my case was a garden variety arrhythmia, but chronic and persistent, I would have episodes that would last 15 minutes at any given time, multiple times per day, for months on end. I would essentially be in persistent atrial fibrillation for at least 3 to 7 hours per day, every day. It physically would wear me out and make me incapable of carrying on a normal life. It made it pretty impossible to go anywhere or do anything without feeling anxiety that my heart would just act out at any time. Ask any parent with an unpredictable toddler how they go out in public, and they'd probably tell you they'd prefer to stay home. I'd respond to my cardiologist's inquiry with an answer that I had learned to listen to my heart. When it started and acted out, I described it in two ways, either like having a jackrabbit in my chest, or I could easily describe this sensation to any woman who's ever had a baby, that it felt like a mother feels during the last week of pregnancy when the baby is at its largest and moving around a lot. It gets very uncomfortable. Sometimes it hurts and even makes it hard to breathe, and you just need to release your anxiety and let it happen. That is exactly how it would feel when my heart would start up with the arrhythmia. I learned to listen to it, surrender to it, and stop whatever I was doing and allow it to pass. I would actually lay down and visualize my heart inside my body, and I would comfort it and calm it down with my thoughts and my breathing. This too became a lesson to learn, to listen to my body, to listen to my heart, to listen to what was really important at the moment. And a few takeaways that I picked up through reading and studying, I hope you'll listen to them. Good things can happen out of the bad. Falling down doesn't make you a failure. Staying down does. Slow down. Listen. Take advantage of the solitude. I learned to be mindful, and then I studied cognitive behavioral techniques before, during, and after grad school. When I finally got to the point that I was physically ready to take on a new challenge, I chose to help others and achieve balance in mind, body, and spirit. So remember, never be ashamed of the scars life has left you with. A scar means the hurt is over, the wound is closed, you've endured the pain, and God has healed you. When you change your thoughts, you will change your behavior. Before you can change your thoughts, you have to listen to them. So that concludes Heart Lessons for the month of February. Now, we're going to move on to the next segment as we wrap up. All right, so remember, you can still get a free copy of my book, Heart Lessons, and get the whole thing, that you don't have to just get it a little piecemeal on just Fruitful Fridays in the month of February. Believe it or not, I can give it to you absolutely free. All you got to do is just go to the show notes and click the link and download the PDF right now. If you want to purchase a physical copy of Heart Lessons, I'll be happy to sign one for you as well. There's another link in the show notes for that too. All right, so coming right back with some weekend vibes.
Certifying badasses, one podcast at a time, as we once more pave the way to getting licensed to be badass.
Alrighty, now. Super excited. We're wrapping up the Fruitful Friday for February. Wow, that's a lot of F's, isn't it? So that was the last of the heart lessons, but of course you can still get it for free. I've been sharing that enough with you. The link to download is in the show notes, along with the link to purchase the physical copy if you want one of those. So hey, for your weekend vibes, I'll also give you a bunch of Apple a Day. So remember, you can also subscribe to Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day on this same podcast. Did you know that they are also in books? Yeah, check that out. Hey, weekend vibes. The importance of doing something that nourishes your mind, body, and spirit as you are focusing on some self love for this month of February. So, this time it can be something as simple as getting a head start on your spring cleaning or gardening. Or how about considering a new learning opportunity or maybe making a new friend? Whatever nourishes your soul, make it an important appointment this weekend. And for your badass soundtrack, make sure you're listening to something fun while you're at it. Because when you attach a happy, warm memory to a song, that's going to help build your badass soundtrack. So while I help you build your badass soundtrack with my badass certification class, I also want you to continue to build past this to stir up a badass attitude as we grow from here. So today in the podcast, we covered, actually the whole month, we've covered National Heart Month. It is National Heart Month, so pay attention to your heart in all ways, how it physically functions and how it emotionally functions. We had some Apple a Day and the weekend vibes. You can flip the format on negativity. You always can. Coming up next month, okay, so Monday begins our March series. So I've got another Mustang Monday for you. March is the beginning of spring, and we'll be covering the letter D in badass, which stands for decide to grow and succeed. That's right. It's an important component of being licensed to be badass, to decide that you want to be licensed to be badass. So we'll be taking all month about leadership and positive productivity and talking about your deciding to be determined to grow and succeed and stay on the course. All right. So thank you so much for being with me all of this month as we continue to grow. Do me a favor, share this with a friend, somebody that you know should also be a certified badass, because who wouldn't want to be a certified badass?
What's this 2B Badass 2? Sounds like a code or a password, 2B Badass 2. Actually, it's what happens when you listen to Kelly Orchard and get your attitude certified to be Badass 2.
Thanks for listening and getting one step closer to being licensed to be badass. Be sure to subscribe to continue on the bus to Badassville. Snag your Badass Habits ebook at licensedtobebadass.com. You can stay in the slow lane and get just enough tools for successful badassery, one podcast at a time. Or you can join the Badass Ambassador crew in the fast lane by checking your baggage with my Licensed to be Badass integrated program with videos, worksheets, and group coaching for motivation, mindset, and a fresh approach to living a fruitfully badass life.
Be sure to subscribe and hop on the bus to Badassville. Monday, again, we turn up the energy. Tune in and tune up. Be bold. Be brave. Be confident. Be badass.